Hello, my name is Virginia Corsini, and for this Python project, I was doing topic 1, sequencing. And what we had to do for this project was to learn some Python by taking a Coursera class. And for me, I had to calculate the average flow time, average tardiness, and make span based on first come, first served, shortest processing time, and earliest due date rules of sequencing. I then took this input data and calculated graphs to show a full report of processing time, due dates, flow time, and tardiness. Unfortunately, my computer has a lot of issues, so I wasn't able to do as much with Python as I wanted to. A lot of the time I was using this Python playground where I had to only use what was already included in Python. But to do this, I added a lot to my code to be able to sort the data and present it in an organized fashion. I also used PyCharm for the graphing part and Plotly, but it seems to make more sense in here, so I'm going to go through my code in the Python playground first. So first here I have a function that just computes an average of a list that I'm going to use later. Here is where I ask the user for inputs. So when I run the code, you'll see that you have to follow the instructions so that you can get a list of processing times, and then you'll get a list of due dates from the user. And then right here, it'll calculate the number of jobs that the user input. And if for some reason the number of processing times and the due dates that they put in don't match up, an error message will come out. Here I'm sorting by first come, first serve, and then we go down to the calculations and sorting for the shortest processing time, which also sorts the due dates, so it's not just sorting one column, it's sorting the whole thing, including the jobs, and each one of these will print. Here we're calculating the earliest due date, and it has about the same principle as the others. Here we're calculating flow time for first come, first serve, and then tardiness for first come, first serve. And these run through a loop to count each item in the matrix and calculate the flow time that way. Then we do about the same things for shortest processing time and earliest due date. Down here, I calculated the average flow time, average tardiness, and make span for first come, first serve, shortest processing time, and earliest due date. Here's where I used the function that I showed above, and that outputs nicely in the end as well. So here, I'm going to run this code and show you the error message that goes with it. And then I'll go over to PyCharm and show you the rest of the code that I've created. So here it says input processing times for each job, starting with job 1, separated by a space. Typing anything other than an integer will exit. So if I had 5 jobs, I type in 5 numbers, and they could be decimals too. I made it so if you put a decimal, it wouldn't mess it up. But we'll put that in, and then it just asks it again, just in case you messed it up and want to try again. But to exit, we just click anything else. Now it'll ask for the number of days until it was due. And so we're gonna put in the same amount of numbers as we did last time, because each due date would go with a processing time. We'll click OK, and then X out of that one. And then here's all the data that comes out. Okay, we have the list of processing times, the due dates, and the job number corresponding to each part that we put in. And then here you can see each of the calculations that I did for the first come first serve, shortest processing time, and earliest due date respectively. And if we come down here, we can see all of our results. And based off of our inputs, we can see that the average flow time is the shortest for the shortest, sorting by the shortest processing time. And it also has the least tardiness and the shortest make span. So for this data set, we would want to make sure that we sorted by the shortest processing time for sure. Now I'm gonna go to PyCharm, and I'm gonna, I have mostly the same thing on here. However, it has changed a little bit because I added a plot, and I also would like to show you what happens when the processing times and due dates are not the same number, because there is an error statement that I added to account for that. So this should all be mostly the same. If you go down here, you can see that I use Plotly to do the different graphs. I was having a little bit of trouble getting all three of them to graph, but I'll just show you guys one for now because it's a bit of effort to go through it. So we're gonna run it here. And first I'll show you the error message. So say we put 3 values for processing time and then 4 values for earliest due date. We get an error message that says the number of inputs for processing time and due date do not match. Please try again for coherent results. So that would tell the user that they need to rerun the program and make sure that they're putting in the same amount of numbers. Now I'll run it again correctly, just using like 3 to make it quick. Now we have all of our answers. Here we're at Plotly. If I refresh the page, it'll show the sequencing table for the shortest processing time. So supposedly if you had more jobs, it would show them and it would show the whole thing, but since I only had 3, it looks really small. But here you can see how they've been sorted and how it goes down the line. Anyway, that's my code. I really preferred using Python Playground, but I was really limited and I had a lot of struggles with my computer limiting me and then having limited time at that point to finish everything. But I really like how this all looks. When I finally started to use PyCharm, it ended up looking different than it came out here. But overall, I found it really useful and I'll definitely be using it in the future. So thank you all for watching my presentation.